BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Farming Today This Week podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, problems with pigs.
Prices and market returns are well below the cost of production. This really is a dire situation.
What record-breaking heat means for cows.
A cow will drink sort of 100 to 125 litres a day, but once the temperature gets above 25 degrees, you can easily double that.
And the power of music.
Even last night, I was talking with some of the choir members and they were saying that what they had shared with the choir, even the last few days, they'd never told their best friends.
More on that later. First, a relic of a world long before sat-nav or even A to Zs. The black and white cast iron finger posts you can spot on lanes and junctions across the country. Now often ignored, many are in a poor state of repair and are disappearing from our rural landscape. Well, that's why the Northumberland branch of CPRE, the Campaign to Protect Rural England, is running a course this summer to teach people how to restore them, as Joe Lonsdale reports.
I'm David Gosling and we're here this morning in Matfern Village Hall. The plan is to go out on site, so the hard work of getting the old rusty components apart and then cleaning the posts back to bare metal.
How did you get interested in finger posts?
I wasn't technically interested in them, but my wife was a parish councillor. And as wives do, they see a job that needs doing. The parish council said, well, we've got an old finger post here, we'd like it restored. And my wife said, David will do it. So I got the job of doing it. I was volunteered to do the one in the village where I live, which is Lanercost in Cumbria.
So are they all different in different parts of the country?
They certainly are. All local authorities were, this is in the early 1900s, were using different foundries who all wanted to put their own stamp on things. The embellishments on the top, the finials, are the things that usually delineate which part of the country you're in. And people just seem to like them. And people like history and they like to maintain things. Right, first warning sign is one of these. And that needs to be roughly just beyond where that bloke is with the dog.
So we've come out into the village of Stamfordham, where there's a finger post which really is in dire need of restoration, and they're going to begin taking it down.
Yeah, my name's Steve Elliott. I'm a mole catcher from Alnwick, and I just thought this would be another string to my bow, like maybe something to do when the weather's inclement for catching moles. I've seen the odd one west of Alnwick, but since you sign up for the course, you notice, I mean, even on the way home last night, I drove through Mitford, which I've driven through about 1,000 times. I noticed one on the bridge that I'd never noticed before.
I'm Andrea De Monte, and I'm doing the course because, I work in conservation, so I'm trying to get a better understanding and also practical skills in terms of what entails restoring these signs.
So the course was the idea of Northumberland's CPRE. Annie Lloyd from the charity is here.
These are iconic pieces of wayside heritage. I think there's a huge amount of nostalgia for them. In fact, people say that until one or two are restored and they're aware of this, they don't realise that they've been driving past them and walking past them and cycling past them without seeing them. They're starting to notice heritage features and what it is to them that makes a place feel really special and a locality feel truly distinctive.
Annie Lloyd there from Northumberland CPRE. Independent UK pig farmers face an uncertain future. That's according to the National Pig Association, which this week called for long-term commitments from retailers, processors and the food service sector. Well, this comes 2 weeks after the supermarket Morrisons said it will stop buying pigs from some of its farmers because of an oversupply of pig meat, blaming the challenging economic climate. Well, speaking to us at the time, the editor of Pig World, Alistair Driver, said the problem's widespread.
In response to what was a relatively good time, some of the bigger companies have expanded herds, put more sows down. That was compounded in the autumn by one of the big factories had a couple of weeks maintenance. That created a bit of a backlog on farms. Demand generally, it's been flat. The demand just hasn't been there. Pigs have built up gradually on farms. Some people worse affected than others, depending on their supply chains. Allied with it, I'm afraid, we've seen a downturn in European prices. That has put not necessarily import pressure. It's not necessarily that more is being imported to displace it, but it's put price pressure on. So the price has been falling. Add into that mix you've got the war in the Middle East, that's starting to push up costs.
Scottish pig farmers say they have been disproportionately hit compared with the rest of the UK, and that a tenth of the national herd has been lost, that is, culled and not sold for meat. The National Farmers Union Scotland is now calling for immediate help from the Scottish Government as the industry battles an oversupply which, combined with an increase in production costs and lower supermarket prices, is threatening their businesses. BBC Scotland's Laurie Carnacan reports.
Save our bacon is the message coming from Gregor Christie, who, alongside his brother Rory, runs a dairy and pig farming business in Dumfries and Galloway. Their grandfather began pig farming in 1954, but Gregor says the financial pressures facing the industry are the most difficult he's ever experienced.
It's very difficult. You know, the costs are still there. We're still having to buy food. There's repairs. The staff need their salaries at the end of the month. For the first quarter of our financial year, which at the end of March, we were 70,000 quid down in income. And for a small pig unit, it cannot go on indefinitely, that's for sure.
There's an abundance of pork in the European markets due to the presence of African swine fever in Spain. It means fewer exports and cheaper imports. This has caused a significant and sustained drop in pig prices, with processing plants facing a backlog of animals waiting to be slaughtered. The result is supply exceeding demand, and farmers are faced with producing pork at a loss. NFU Scotland President Andrew Connan said that the industry is now under unsustainable pressure.
Within the pig sector, we are now facing prices and market returns which are well below the cost of production. And at the moment, the financial situation for pig producers in Scotland is actually industry and business threatening. This really is a dire situation. It's unsustainable.
The union claims 10% of the country's sow herds have been lost since the start of the year, and Alistair Lane is one of those who've chosen to leave the industry. Mr Lane has spent the last 20 years producing pork from his farm near Lockerbie, but says he's been forced to make the devastating decision due to constant uncertainty.
Financially, it just doesn't really make sense to keep investing into something that doesn't have the security going forward. There's just too much uncertainty. It is a wrenching decision, but I feel, potentially a brave one too, a sensible one.
NFU Scotland say a typical 500 sow unit is facing losses of up to £500,000. Mr Connan is calling on the Scottish Government for immediate help and says consumers can also support the industry. A Scottish Government spokesperson said they have worked with the UK Government and other devolved administrations on supply chain fairness regulations designed to improve and create greater fairness in the agricultural supply chain, which enables producers to raise concerns with the supply chain adjudicator if they feel they have been treated unfairly. Meanwhile, back on the farm, Gregor Christie says action is needed now.
It is a case of save our bacon. The pig industry is unsupported, is now at breaking point.
Farmer Gregor Christie there. Now, as you may have noticed, it's been a record-breakingly hot week across much, though not all, of the UK, and that has brought problems with crops struggling and livestock at risk of overheating. Well, let's look at the crops first. This hot spell comes on the heels of one of the driest Aprils on record, and farmers in the east of England warn they'll have to start reviewing the way they plant crops. Heather Oldfield is county chair for the National Farmers Union in South Lincolnshire, and her beans, barley and wheat fields are all suffering because of the weather, as she showed our reporter Bob Huckenhall.
So we're in your winter wheat field now, and you're not happy with the condition, are you, of the crop?
Not as it stands at the moment, Bob. So it's looking pretty clean, but the crop just looks stressed, and I think that's the story across the southern county and down the east of England. So last year, between the 1st of March and to present day, we had 44.5 mils of rain. This year, between the same period, we've had 27.9, so that's nearly half of the rainfall, and then you put that in with increased costs of inputs, so fertiliser and diesel, and then you put that together with a reduction in prices for winter wheat. We're probably on for a deficit of about £20 a tonne, is what the weather's going to cost us at the moment. Last year, the drought that we had then cost us about £11 to £12 a tonne, so it's not looking very clever at the moment.
And you've got spring barley in the field next door, And it looks very patchy, doesn't it?
It's really patchy, and that's been drilled for a fair few weeks now as well. It's just moisture. There isn't the moisture there for the seed to germinate. We drilled with a direct drill, which means that it doesn't disturb the soil too much to try and consolidate that moisture. And we really put the seed as far down in the soil as we could to try and hit moisture, but it's not made much of a difference.
How do you see the future then if this weather pattern continues?
We're seriously considering whether we can grow spring crops. You want to drill a crop to know that you're going to get something back and you're going to at least break even. But if looking across the field at the moment, I don't think we will. We have to go more to winter cropping. But then we've got the issue that we've had for the last few years, that when you get to October time, that's when it starts to rain. And that's when, particularly here where we're on heavy clay, it becomes too soft, the ground, to be able to travel with equipment, and then you can't drill.
So there'll be more work done in the winter, you think?
Well, potentially in the autumn, but the problem that you have is we use spring cropping to widen our rotations, to improve soil health, for the environment, and we also use those spring crops to break up pests and diseases as well, and spread your risk.
Are you and other farmers going to look at different crops that perhaps you could grow that maybe don't need as much water?
Farmers, we're very innovative, but looking at anything new requires investment, and there isn't that there at the moment. There's not flex in the system to be able to do that, which is why people are looking to diversify into other things.
Arable farmer Heather Oldfield. Extreme heat means extra concerns for livestock farmers too. The Irish government has issued guidance advising not to transport animals in the hottest part of the day, and farmers and vets will be looking out for symptoms of heat stress. Well, Richard Park has a herd of 140 organic dairy cows just to the south of Kendal in Cumbria. He's been actively future-proofing his farm to deal with heat waves for some time now. Kaz Graham's been to meet him.
Just up at the top of the hill here, we've got your herd of dairy cows. It looks absolutely idyllic, like a classic sort of pastoral English scene. Black and white, brown and white. Tell me what we're looking at.
They're a mixture of breeds, so we've got some Holsteins, we've got some Viking Reds, we've got some Montbéliards, and we've got some Jerseys, a real licorice all sorts.
Yeah, and on a baking hot day like today, we're at the right place for these cows, because this is one of your troughs here?
It is. This is one of our water troughs that we have in every field, every paddock. We can hear the water running in there. And the trough is full, so that's good, that's what we want to see. So what we've got here is a trough with a special valve on. It's a fast flow valve, so it fills the trough very quickly. And then we have a tank near the farm, and that holds enough water for 2 days. And we have a big 50mm pipe that goes underground and feeds all these troughs, and a pump, so it's all independent. It just makes sure that the cows always have water in front of them, because a cow will drink sort of 100 to 125 litres a day, but once the temperature gets above 25 degrees, you can easily double that.
Double
that. A cow is an animal whose ideal temperature is probably around about 5 degrees. She has a big rumen that she uses to digest this grass that we've just been walking through, and that generates a lot of heat. What is it now? Probably around about 28 degrees, or past that sort of point of comfort for them, really.
Yeah, they're panting actually, aren't they?
They are, yeah, they're hot. Sometimes, depending on which paddock they're in, you'll see them all sat on top of the hill, obviously catching a little bit of breeze. This field that we're in, it is on a little hill, but we also have these trees and a big hedge over here.
Yeah, and you actively keep these hedges like this so that they can provide shade.
We do. It's something that we started doing a number of years ago, is allowing the hedges to grow a lot taller for this very reason, amongst others. And we've also, because our fields are split up into different blocks, sometimes they can be in a paddock that doesn't have any hedges, or might only have one at one boundary. So what we have started to do this year is put in a agroforestry system. So we've got a line of trees, and then at either side we've got a line of shrubs that in a few years will grow up and provide the same benefits that we've got on this boundary of this field.
How does this heat affect the milk that comes out of these cows?
Well, it can lower the milk production just because the cow is a bit more uncomfortable and they probably don't eat as much, but For us, our cows all calve in the autumn, so at this time of year they're in what we call late lactation, so they're reaching the point where they will stop being milked for a couple of months, so they're actually not giving a great deal of milk, so it doesn't really affect us in that sense.
And this grass that we're standing in, this long grass, I mean, it's not just important as feed for now, it's important as winter fodder as well. You cut it at this time of year and then store it for the winter as silage. Lots of farmers out silaging at the moment. I passed a couple just driving here this morning. What kind of impact will this real extreme heat have on this year's silage?
As a dairy farmer, I take 4 to 5 cuts of silage, so we've taken our first cut, and then we will be taking a subsequent cut every 5 to 6 weeks.
And that means that you cut it and then you let it grow again?
Yes.
And then you cut it again?
Yes.
It's just like mowing your lawn in a way, but storing that grass as feed for the winter.
Exactly that.
So what impact does this heat have on the silage that you're cutting?
Normally in Cumbria, when you're making silage, you're watching the weather forecast for rain, but obviously that's not a problem at the moment. But you would probably not spread it out to dry. It is actually possible to get it too dry, and to make silage, you're not making hay, so you don't want it too dry. So it's sort of getting that balance.
Well, that's interesting, because one of our listeners actually emailed us and said, can grass ever be too dry to make silage?
It probably can. The problem if it's too dry is because to make silage you need to compact it down and get all the air out, and if it's too dry it's really difficult to do that.
And can it be that if you cut a grass for silage and it's really, really hot, how does that impact the further growth afterwards? I've passed quite a few fields over the last couple of days that look really yellow after they've been silaged.
They do look yellow just at the moment, don't they? Yeah, but there is actually quite a bit of moisture in the ground, and there's actually rain forecast next week. So this is something you won't hear very often, but as a farmer I'm very happy with the way the weather is.
Hello, we've got a 716 who is a beautiful chestnut colour with beautiful eyes and eyelashes, who's just come to say hello.
With those beautiful eyes and eyelashes, I'm guessing she'll have a little bit of Jersey in her.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Park with Kaz there. Now, water is a major topic of conversation amongst farmers at the moment because, as Heather Oldfield in Lincolnshire mentioned earlier, it is in short supply. Environment Agency figures show that rainfall across England last month was 38% of the long-term average. South Essex got 2 millimetres. That's just 5% of the average. Now, rain is forecast, but for those who irrigate their crops over the summer with water taken out of rivers or aquifers, it's called abstraction. What are the prospects? Stephen Moncaster is a water management specialist with Norfolk Environment, Food and Farming.
Farmers, particularly in the east of England, but also in the Midlands, grow a large volume of irrigated crops, so potatoes, salads, other crops that require water during the summer. That water is pumped out of the ground from aquifers or from rivers or from reservoirs, and all water which is abstracted in that way is licensed by the Environment Agency.
Is it likely, do you think, that this year, because we haven't had that much rain recently, farmers will be limited on what they're allowed to take?
There was quite a lot of rainfall over the winter period that's just passed, topping up the natural systems on which we rely more or less back to normal. And although some people will undoubtedly go short, I think most people will be okay unless the dry weather conditions persist.
What does a farmer do then when they've been thinking, well, I'll be taking this amount of water in abstraction, and suddenly that is reduced? At that point, what are your options?
For some, it means the end of their business in terms of irrigated agriculture, and they have to go and find something else to do. Other people adapt their businesses by building winter storage reservoirs, so taking water from rivers in the winter when it's available. Other people move from where there isn't water to where there is, so there's kind of a shift in the pattern of agriculture.
You work with a group of growers and farmers in the east of England. What have you changed about what they do to try and improve their water management?
We have about 150 farmers. They're organised by catchment. We look at the total volume of abstraction from groundwater and surface water in the catchment. We compare that to the targets that the agency has for flows and other things. And for those that do have issues, we're then able to work with them on options. So the new winter storage reservoirs, new licences.
We haven't really, either as normal consumers or as farmers, had to really think hard about water in this country for many, many, many years. is that going to have to change?
It does have to change. The Environment Agency are dealing with a legacy abstraction system that was put in place in the 1960s. It's left many of our catchments over-abstracted and over-licensed, and they are going through a 10-year process of addressing that issue. At the end of it, abstraction and catchments will be sustainable. What that means is there'll be lots of people who currently have licences that will have licences that are either cut or removed entirely, and that's going to be a big deal for a lot of people.
Steve Moncaster. Right, let's end today with some music. The Hawkstone Farmers Choir singing Bastille's Pompeii on Britain's Got Talent, and that performance got them through to tonight's final. The choir is made up of farmers and others working in agriculture. It was originally set up as part of an advertising campaign, but it has since been using its growing fame to talk about mental health in farming. Katrina Schell is a member of the choir. She's usually on the family farm in Northumberland. Tonight, she'll be on stage.
My nerves are a bit shattered, a bit frayed. I think I'm okay at the moment, but later on today, I think we're going to be needing a few deep breaths, let's put it that way.
It was a pretty amazing experience just watching the semi-final, which you won. What was it like singing?
It was honestly one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Bar having my family, I didn't even know I wanted to be on stage. And now I feel like I quite fancy doing it again. The thing is, I'm not there by myself. I'm with 32 other amazing people that are now truly classed as close friends. So I think to experience it with them that's the bit for me that I absolutely love. I wouldn't want to do it by myself.
You've got another weekend off the farm for the final. Just on a purely practical level, how are you all finding it, getting people to cover for you at home?
Yeah, so my husband, he is the main farmer, I suppose. He day in, day out, that's what he does full time. I, as many women in agriculture know, have to juggle quite a lot. So I have to jump in and feed, and during hay time, I have to go and help bale or row up, or harvest. I might have to jump on go and lead off the combine or provide teas. We've also got 3 children, and we diversified on the farm as well. So I've got a camping and glamping site. So it is a huge juggle, I have to say, but we just have to make it work.
What are you going to sing tonight?
I would love to tell you, but I can't.
Oh, it's a secret.
It's a secret, yeah. But it's incredible. Never been done before. The lyrics really, really hit home, and they mean so much to us.
Can't wait to see it. This choir has had this massive impact way beyond the singing. Have you been surprised by the reaction you've had?
Hugely surprised. We knew that it was something special, so we did the beer adverts and things, and they were a bit of a laugh, and we all had good fun. And then it soon became apparent that this is like therapy for us, just in the 33 of us. We were telling things that we wouldn't share with other people. And then we thought, actually, if we can feel like that, maybe we can do that for other people as well. And it sort of evolved from there. It was a bit of a snowball effect, really. And then we put a few things online, and the comments we received back were so humbling. We soon realized that if we can make this feeling sort of expand and grow to the wider audience and represent British agriculture and the rural communities and mental health within that, then that surely we've got to do something about that.
It's a very positive way as well, isn't it, of shining a light on something which is really difficult and really tricky for many people who work in agriculture.
We are shining a light on it, and we just want to push the message that it is okay not to be okay, and there's a stigma attached to struggling. And especially in old-fashioned farming, it's not talked about a lot. And we want to say, actually, you'll be surprised, once you start opening up, you'll be surprised how many people actually are struggling or have struggled. Even last night, I was talking with some of the choir members, and they were saying that actually what they had shared with the choir, even the last few days, they'd never told their best friends. To be able to feel so privileged that they have chosen me or us to talk to, that is a really humbling experience. Yeah, it's just incredible.
Katrina Schell there from the Hawkstone Farmers Choir. Good luck to them tonight. That's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Heather Simons, and Farming Today this week is a BBC Audio Bristol production.